Welcome back to the 750. I am your RJ Ochoa. He is your 7'5", two-time Super Bowl champion, college football Hall of Famer. And speaking of college football, his team not as highly ranked as my fighting Texas Aggies. The one, the only, the legendary Tony Casillas. TC, what up?
You better say that while you can. Oh, by the way,
I am.
congratulations. Congratulations on the big win versus Auburn. Unfortunately, partner, I don't know if you're going to – I don't think that's going to get you into the SEC championship game. But regardless, hey, after 3 years under Jimbo Fisher, you got something you can put your chest out a little bit today. But congratulations. A good win for you guys this weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The future feels at least somewhat bright now, which is really all I am, at this point taking away. I know this is a very unique season, as we all know. So as long as we can take some steps forward, hey, that's what 2020 is all about. 2020 has been very weird, Tony, for everything, but football included. And, it's been so weird that just about every show that we do on our network has gotten a chance to be the pregame show for a Cowboys game, because games have been on just about every day of the week so far this year. And lo and behold, it is the 750's turn. Later on today, on Tuesday, the Dallas Cowboys will visit the Baltimore Ravens. This game originally scheduled to take place last Thursday. Full disclosure for everybody, Tony and I are recording about 9 o'clock Monday morning. The trials and tribulations of life dictate that. So also the trials and tribulations of life, I'm currently home alone with the dog. So if little bear makes a noise, hey, it's 2020 and we're all just rolling with it. He's a little pissed off this morning. And I think for good reason. His bears are pretty embarrassing right now. But before we get into the Cowboys-Ravens matchup, Tony,
so wait a second. Your dog is Bears. That's his team he cheers for. I mean, is that over?
No.
Over there? What are you referring to? And by the way, Home Alone is one of my favorite top Christmas movies.
It's a great movie. I think Home Alone and Jingle All the Way are tied for my two favorites. I love Jingle All the Way. I'll put it to you like this, Tony. I have a second tier level fandom for Oklahoma because we do a show together. Mm-hmm. How could I not, like the Sooners, being partners with one of the greatest Sooners of all time.
Yeah, shout out to my Sooners making it to the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
back again.
My wife's from Oklahoma. She's a Sooner fan. Her whole family is a Sooner fan. So they're kind of this, not a two team, but they're a team that I root for and I want to see do well. And
there's this this connection we have, which is
exactly
really it's crazy because full disclosure, you and I have never personally met each other. I mean, we've been doing this for over 2 years now, but through Zoom and just the way we do our broadcasts, I feel like we know each other really good.
Right.
And but anyway, that's amazing how much we got in common.
Exactly. So
except a little age difference, but other than that, hey, we're good. We got a lot in common.
So Oklahoma's my team in that special box. And Bear, well, he's a Cowboys fan, a Cowboys dog, but his name is Bear. You know what I mean? So in a similar way, he roots for the Bears. He won't root for the Baylor Bears because, again, he's got that Oklahoma tie. He's not going that far. But so he –
what you should have did, RJ? You should have named him Buckus.
Oh, wow. That would be an interesting
Your next dog, if you still want to go the Chicago Bears the route next time, throw in Buckus unless you get a female dog.
Is that your all-time favorite bear? Who's your favorite bear?
Guys, that's Walter Payton. I mean, there's so many great. I mean, I go back to '85. The last time the Bears won a Super Bowl championship, but that whole team that they had. But I've never really been a Bears fan, but I've had people that are Bears fan, and the biggest, I think that the name that comes to mind as the top Bears name comes. Associated with Chicago Bears is Butkus. So it kind of brought back thoughts of that, of people naming their dogs after the Dick Butkus, one of the all-time greats, I guess you would say. So maybe he is an all-time great. There's so many.
Right on. Well, the Bears were a great team in 1985. Obviously got it done with defense. The Dallas Cowboys have not gotten it done with defense this year. At all. And I do want to talk, obviously, because this is kind of our pregame show about the Cowboys and Ravens game. But before we do, Tony, I've been saying for a couple of weeks that the NFC East was likely only going to get a win over the next few weeks from the Dallas Cowboys beating the Cincinnati Bengals next week, a different CB team, Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals. And so that was wrong because the New York Giants beat the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. Nobody saw this coming. I don't care who you are. I don't care what survivor pool, whatever you're in. Nobody saw this coming. The New York Giants now have 5 wins, Tony. The Dallas Cowboys have 3. The Cowboys get to play the Bengals, as I mentioned, and so it's certainly not mathematically over. But to me, I do feel like the Giants just created a great bit of separation between themselves and the Cowboys, and really everybody else, to be fair.
Yeah, I saw your tweet too. You're just like, I'm in disbelief that the Giants are actually going to beat the Seahawks and ended up beating them. But yeah, they're pulling away from the pack after their 5th win. Think about that. I don't know. I think the Giants, you can talk about some of the decisions Joe Judge has made as their head coach, but I mean, they got some good phases of the game going on now. I think it's just remarkable that Colt McCoy is – nothing against Colt McCoy. I thought he was a tremendous quarterback at Texas. And I know it's hard for a former OU Senator to say it, but I liked what he did there. But the fact that he's still in the National Football League, I think it's his 8th season, and was able to, orchestrate enough points, and their defense played well. But I think that's the thing about it, RJ, in the NFC East this year, is that there's not really – when you look at the 4 teams, I guess Washington, they're playing – I mean, they got a great defense. And I guess I'm comparing it to the Cowboys. Because the Giants, to me, they look defensively. They made some great plays in that game. So I think that's what they got going for them now, compared to what Dallas is facing now. Really hasn't been a phase of the game they could really just hang their hat on lately.
They have won 4 games in a row, the New York Giants.
Yeah.
Impressive. And,
that is impressive considering where they came from. And, look, I mean, that was an impressive win against the Seahawks. I mean, was an 8-3 team. And, you can say all you want, but a lot of people think, going into this week and, be them and the Packers playing for the NFC Championship. So that's a very credible win that they were able to pull off.
I agree with you. Again, Bears, he's got a different opinion, I suppose. Not as high on the Giants.
Hey, go feed that dog.
I fed him already. He's just pissed off. It is garbage day.
I hate that. Don't let my dogs get started. They're quarantined in there. My wife went out of town for business. It's been a long time, so I'm surprised that they're just not going nuts. But we'll have to get this podcast in briefly. Our pregame
show. Anyway, my last thought on the NFC East before we get to the Cowboys and Ravens involves a former Sooner, one of the greatest Sooners of all time, not greater than yourself, in my humble opinion, Jalen Hurts. Now, again, Tony and I are recording Monday morning. It's possible that by the time you listen to this on Tuesday, Doug Peterson has made a decision. But as of now, Doug Peterson did appear on WIP in Philadelphia on Monday, said he hasn't made a decision as far as the Eagles starting quarterback next week against the New Orleans Saints. But this is the kind of thing, Tony, and you've seen this, in all your walks of football life. When a coach makes the decision that Doug Peterson did to effectively bench Carson Wentz and go to Jalen Hurts, there's no going back. I mean, I don't feel like Doug Peterson's going to go back to Carson Wentz this week. This does feel like the Jalen Hurts show, at least from here on out to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think you just got to go with the man-up card. And when I say man-up, I'm referring to Doug Peterson. You've already made the decision. You went with you had to go a different direction. I mean, their season has been horrible. Carson Wentz has been horrible. And so now you just kind of need, I'm just being true to what their whole decision making and their season's been. And you've already made the decision. I don't think there's any going back on this decision. Carson Wentz, yeah, look, I mean, they made a huge investment in him, guaranteed over $100 million. So I think to them right now, it's just trying to find something that, he's got to save his job because he's under a lot of scrutiny also. I don't know if there's any guarantees they're going to bring him back. I mean, just the fact that this whole season has been a debacle. I mean, look at their quarterback. He's supposed to be arguably a lot of people thought it was Dak and Carson Wentz. Made Carson Wentz a lot of people. And now they're going the direction where they just need something to ignite some type of offense. And you can make all the excuses you want for Carson Wentz. lack of protection and everything. But still, when guys are wide open, he can't find them. So there's no going back, RJ. There's not. I don't know why he's all reluctant to make a decision. I mean, you've already went there. You can't go back now.
Yeah, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. We've all made some bad purchases. Maybe not over $100 million worth of a bad purchase.
I don't feel sorry for Carson Wentz.
I think that's. I
mean, his pride is probably broken now. But I heard someone talking about this morning. Let this kind of manifest and see what happens. And you know what, Jalen Hurts. Like their next game, they play. I'm trying to think. Their next game, they've
got the Saints on Sunday.
The Saints. So if he struggles against the Saints, then you go to Carson Wentz. But you got to give him the opportunity to get some work during the week. And look, I mean, that's the toughest decision. I know as a player, it's hard to swallow, especially at quarterback. But but let him compete in the offseason. Let him really just try to go at it. But I don't think anyone has a problem with this. And I guarantee they'll probably say Carson Wentz a lot of criticism in that city of brotherly love.
Well, we will certainly talk about all this in the offseason, but I don't know if you feel this way. I think this is the difference between like someone who's only ever been a fan and not ever played, but there are players like when Odell Beckham Jr. got traded from the Giants to the Cleveland Browns. There is this moment of being a Cowboys fan where you're like, oh, hell yeah, now I get to root for this guy. You know what I mean? There was this factor that kept me from really enjoying who he was as a player because he played for a division rival.
Right.
And so I would like to root for Carson Wentz. Send him to the Indianapolis Colts with Matt Eberflus's defense. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But, again, we'll get there. Before we get there, the Cowboys have 5 more games to go, the first of which is today, Tuesday, against the Baltimore Ravens. Tony, the Ravens on Saturday released an injury report of sorts. Technically, actually, literally is an injury report. All of these players are questionable. Obviously, the Ravens are coming off of a very unique game against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week that was heavily challenged due to COVID-19. Again, all of these players officially listed as questionable. Chuck Clark, safety, linebacker, Jalen Ferguson, cornerback, Jimmy Smith, defensive tackle, Broderick Washington is doubtful, as is cornerback, Tremont Williams. All of these players are questionable. Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, Deshaun Elliott, DJ Fluker, Devontae Harris, and Christian Welch. Now, it was reported on Sunday morning during all of the countdown shows that it appears as if Lamar Jackson is going to play in this game. I think we all feel the same in that we all want Lamar Jackson and everybody to be healthy as far as COVID and everything is concerned. That's priority number one. Now getting to football, obviously the Cowboys had a better chance against the Ravens without Lamar Jackson, assuming he plays. Yikes. And actually, Tony, before we get to this game, this is the first time you and I have ever previewed a Cowboys-Ravens game. I was at the final game at Texas Stadium in 2008 when the Cowboys lost. And after the game, they did this thing where they brought out a bunch of alumni. I assume you were there. I've never asked you that before. Were you part of that procession that they had at Texas Stadium?
I'm sure I was. I think that was that was the last year for the last games at Texas Stadium. And I think they actually I think the jersey that's behind me is from that inaugural day, or not in inaugural last day, if you will.
Right.
And yeah, I was there, and it was it's a pretty, it was bad and good. It was good that the Cowboys are moving to a different venue. It was bad that they're having to bury the ghost of championships, and really bad the Cowboys got beat that day. I believe they just ran the ball down the throat.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was. I remember it was a two-headed monster, and that's all they did was. It's kind of like what the Cowboys are doing this year. And to your point about Lamar Jackson, look, I never want a player to be injured.
Right.
But if it's a talent, I hope he's out that week, especially Lamar Jackson. Because when you look at this team, they're a rushing football team, and Lamar Jackson is one of the most dynamic runners, quarterbacks in the National Football League, leads their team in rushing. So it's a guy that you probably pray that you don't have to face again. Considering the Cowboys, are so bad at stopping the run, and it's just a headache for them.
Now, the Ravens, I think this happens a lot. People look at teams and and they just kind of go off, not stereotypes, but just
Mhm.
kind of superficial statements. Like people be like, man, because you're right. The Ravens are regarded for their ability to run the ball, and that was who they were last year. They dominated the NFL from a rushing perspective. And not that they've been bad this year, but they have not been who they were last year. A lot of people have been kind of perplexed by this. A lot of people, you get the takes like, oh, the NFL's figured out Lamar Jackson. And
Right.
I think there's a lot of brokenness to the Ravens, and there's a lot of injuries as well. But that's the case across the league. I think when the season started, or when the schedule came out, rather, we all looked at this game, and if you power ranked the games and said the ones the Cowboys, even with Dak and everybody, were most likely to lose, this was probably at the top of that list. Now, I do think this is the toughest remaining game for the Cowboys with regards to their current schedule, but it's because it's the only game against a team with an above 500 record.
Right.
But like, what is your panic level, or your afraid level of the? I mean, like, it's not a 10 out of 10. For me, it's like a 6 to 7 out of 10. I don't know if you feel the same.
Well, I mean, they're 6-5, and they need to. This is desperate measures for them. They have to win this game to keep their lives. Keep their playoff hopes alive as a wild card team now. I mean, you're playing. No one's gonna. I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh loses. They probably lose a game, but I mean, they're the team to beat, and then they've already they're clinching that division title. But Mark Andrews, he's a tremendous tight end. I don't think he's going to be available.
Correct.
And so you take away the tight end, and I think for Lamar Jackson, they have a great connection. Hollywood Brown, he's a tremendous explosive wide receiver. But they do have the ability to run the football, and that's something that they hang their hat on. And you look at matchups. To me, that's the matchup that the Cowboys have to try to stop, is when they run the football. And when they have Lamar Jackson back there, as quick as he is, and we've seen this before, I mean, they haven't faced a guy that's that explosive. And then the problem is for the Dallas defense, and we see this all the time. We saw this yesterday when the Titans played Cleveland, because they were so concerned about stopping the run. They put everybody around the line of scrimmage, and before you know it, you have guys running downfield, getting out of coverage. So to me, that is the thing that I fear the worst for this Cowboys defense, is being able to stop the run, because Lamar Jackson just creates so many problems for defense.
So Lamar Jackson, obviously an issue. Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins both were out last week against Pittsburgh. They were on the COVID list. It does appear as if they are going to play again. Everything is kind of up in the air. I do think, and again, this isn't completely indicative of who they are, but going off of Football Outsiders DVOA metrics, so the Ravens rank 8th overall in DVOA. On the surface, look like a very good team. Their offensive DVOA is 24th in the NFL. And I certainly am still afraid of their offense, but their defensive DVOA is 7th, and their special teams DVOA is 2nd. And so I'm certainly not predicting this by any means, but I think that we could have a situation where the Ravens offense, I don't want to say struggles, but is kind of like starting the lawnmower a little bit. Like maybe not 3 and outs, but maybe only have like 9 points, 3 Justin Tucker field goals at halftime, something like that. And the Cowboys are well within this, but I just don't think the Cowboys can climb the mountain on the other side. I don't think that the Cowboys offense can get over the hump that is the Ravens defense, and I certainly don't think the Cowboys special teams can go toe to toe with the special teams unit that's one of the best in the NFL. I hate talking about this way and relating this back to football. Obviously, and we mentioned this, Tony, last week, the Cowboys, or 2 weeks ago now, the Cowboys played their Thanksgiving Day game immediately after the loss of Marcus Paul. Their hearts weighed extremely heavy. I have to believe that it has been good for their mental health and good for their just overall spiritual wellness to have the time to decompress and to reset emotionally and physically. Do you think if we put up, if 2 ends of the spectrum were who we saw the Cowboys as in Minnesota and who they were against Washington on Thanksgiving, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my fists, where would you put what you think Tuesday's performance will be? Would you put it right in the middle, or would you put it closer to the Minnesota game, closer to the Washington game? Like, what version of this team do you expect to see, given that they've now had time to just kind of breathe, which they didn't ahead of the Thanksgiving game?
Well, we've seen Dallas this year. Sometimes they wouldn't even show up. And I know that, yeah, you got to process a lot of things that happened. The tragedy with, as you mentioned, Marcus Paul, and just losing the way they did Thanksgiving Day. And it's been a while since they played. It's been a couple of weeks. And so physically, I think it's really good for your soul. I mean, because at this point, you're beat up, guys that need some time off, just to recuperate.
Right.
And it's been just a crazy season. I think it's a good thing because it comes at a impromptu time where they can just be fresh, if you will. But I think the thing with this, though, is that there's been already so much damage created, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking, okay, well, if they had won 4 games or 5 games and they get to this point where hypothetically this happened, then I could see it really factoring in like, okay, we're still, the Giants got 5 wins and we're still, we can still, see some light as far as winning the division. But now it's just, to me, I don't know. I think that's the question with this team. It's been so elusive. It's like it been an enigma when you look at who's going to show up. Yeah, everything you just said, RJ, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I've seen teams like, okay, well, what'd you do over the bye week? You've had all this time. No one knows. I think defensively it will help them because I think that I think as you mentioned, when you look at the ratio, the passing ratio compared to both teams, the Cowboys lead that as far as offense. I mean, you look at they're 32nd in throwing the football because that's not who they are. They're a team
Right.
that runs the ball, the Ravens, and they play great defense and they get turnovers. So if you can eliminate, the takeaways, I mean, their defense is always going to keep them in a game. I mean, John Harbaugh, I mean, it's always been their philosophy to play defense, and they have, and to get takeaways. So, to answer your question, I hope we see that factor in with them having this time off to be able to recuperate and be mentally fresh. But I don't know. I think defensively, I think it'll help them. Maybe offensively, they got some continuity, going on,
Right.
and we're able to put some things together. But it definitely should help them. I mean, I put money on that, but if I was a bet man, I don't think I would.
If the Cowboys, by the way, this varies depending on where you look, but as of right now, they're about 8-point underdogs. Would you take that if you were putting money on this game?
Yeah, you know what? I would take the Cowboys because I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think there's going to be. I think that I eat my words, but I think this is a good matchup. I'll say that, but then Lamar Jackson will go off and freaking have 200 yards rushing and throw for 300.
Right.
And that's just kind of been the norm, the narrative for this team. But I think it's going to be a lot closer game than that.
I do think, like people say a lot, oh, we have to play a perfect game to beat like this team. Like people say like you have to play a perfect game to beat the Chiefs. I don't think you have to play a perfect game here. Just given the DNA of the Ravens, I think you have to play like a perfect first quarter or like a perfect first half because we've seen the Ravens. I'm certainly not going to be the guy that's like Lamar Jackson's not a great passer. Lamar Jackson can throw the football, but overall, I don't think that the Ravens do well if you get like a 14-point lead on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think if you get up by like even like 10, if you get up 2 scores, they can certainly score very quickly. That's Lamar Jackson's, gift. But I think that you really fluster who they are and what they want to do if you can kind of, pin them down that way. And so, if this can be a situation where Cowboys win the toss, they defer, they get maybe not a 3-and-out, but they get the ball back, they go down, score, then maybe get a quick turnover or something like that, and they go score again like that. In that moment, I certainly think the Cowboys cover, and I think that this game could get wonky. For what it's worth, Andy Dalton didn't play every game for the Cincinnati Bengals last year, Tony, but he did play when they visited the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, he's done that a lot, having played for the Bengals for a long time. So Andy Dalton's last performance in Baltimore came on October 13th last year. He went 21 of 39 for 235 yards, did not throw a touchdown, threw an interception though. So that was unfortunate, but he did rush for a touchdown. And we have seen Andy Dalton get a little wheelie, like, get out. Like and I know he got hurt that way against Washington the last time they visited the state of Maryland. But I think that that's a factor in this game. I think that, we've all kind of slept on, I'm not saying Andy Dalton is Lamar Jackson, but I think he's got some moves. He's got some wheels. Give me a prediction. Give me a score prediction. Who
Well,
wins?
and one of the things that you said when you look at, and I just kind of like I thought about back flip-flopping a little bit, because look at the strength of the schedule with Baltimore. Look at the teams that they played, and look at the teams the Cowboys have played, and you look at the different ratio, and they play the Browns, they play obviously the Steelers, they play them twice, Cincinnati, so their strength of schedule, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's the difficulty has got to be a lot harder than the Cowboys schedule been, because just the NFC East, okay. But I think that there's something to be said for the Cowboys being able to play on the road the way they did against Minnesota. And I really think that they'll go collectively, whatever Mike Nolan has done to this defense, whatever they decided to do to either simplify it or guys understanding and just having new, fresh players in there, new players, Neville Gallimore, some of these guys are playing. I think that gives them a chance against the run. I always thought this as a player. It's easier to play the run, to sit there, and you just got to be a tough SOB. All right, we're going to sit down there. It's going to be down and dirty, pound the ball at us. But with Lamar Jackson, again, it's just so hard to really just hone in and put 8, 9 guys in a box, because the dude can get to the edge. In saying that, I think it's going to be a close game. The problem is for the Cowboys is that I think Zeke's got to hang on to the ball without a doubt. They cannot turn the ball over against this team, because they're so good at converting on points, turnovers into points. So, but I think it's going to be a closer game. I like Baltimore winning 24-20. They'll do enough to, as I mentioned, they'll win the takeaway the category. And I just think there'll be a moment where Andy Dalton gets pressure from this defense, and he'll either strip fumble or there'll be a turnover. We haven't even talked about Dez. Dez may have, this may be the best drama. Yeah, as you do the X, right? This may be the best drama for X to go up and catch a 50-50 ball. But I like it close. I think Baltimore wins 24-20.
I will say, 2 years ago, I was really looking forward to Dez being on the New Orleans Saints and visiting the Cowboys, because at the time that he joined the Saints, that was when, remember, we predicted the Cowboys to go 0-5 in that stretch, like late November, December, and we looked stupid because they went 5-0. But I was really looking forward to that because all the juice was there, right? Like, because he had called out Sean Lee, he'd called out Travis Frederick, he'd called out Jason Garrett, and like, all that's gone. And ultimately it's good for harmony that like everybody loves each other now, and it's all a reunion, but that was going to be fun. You know what I mean? To
harmony,
watch,
man. At this point, you don't need no damn harmony.
Right. But
I mean, you need harmony, but it's not dissensions. But I understand your point.
I do think that Dez scores, and I think it's even like a situation where like all the Cowboys players go like dap him up afterwards, because it will be cool like to see him score a touchdown again in the NFL.
Wait a second. The Cowboys will dap him up.
I really think like
I better not see that when Dez Bryant, when they go up and like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see any exchange in Dez's jersey or anything. He's the enemy now.
Jalen Smith, I think posted on his Instagram. I'm pretty certain he said last week that he wanted to like swap jerseys with Dez. So
of course there was. Yeah, he's probably looking forward to the end of the game. He's looking forward to getting he already got it staged and everything. What's the little camera that they do at the in the end zone now for COVID? It's the team cam. Yeah. No, I agree. Like, if I had to pick somebody who already had a plan to go swap jerseys with Dez, it would be Jalen Smith. Well, I know when they get in the red zone and they're on the 5-yard line and they're throwing a fade route, I know it's going to go to Dez, and Dez catches it. Does a jump ball. I mean, look, I'll clap, but as a player, I'm like, hey, look, I think it's a tremendous story. He went to the Saints and blew his Achilles tendon, and he's able to play. And we've seen the memes of him working out and everything. But look, you're out there protecting your football soul. You don't worry about what Dez is doing.
There was actually, if I remember correctly, there was
and I love Dez Bryant. I miss his passion, but I'm just saying, as a player, you're not that compassionate. Don't hide those feelings.
There was a game last year where when Lamar was on his like absolute terror, I forget who it was against. But Lamar had like at the end he had to bring out like some PR person brought out like 6 extra jerseys because so many players wanted to do jersey swaps with him. And so like Lamar literally swapped like 6-7 jerseys in
You
that
know how I
particular
feel
game.
about that. I have the old man's stand on that, and to worry
So
about
wait,
signing 6
you
jerseys.
don't have any players' jerseys
Yeah, I mean, I
from?
have jerseys, but no, but not from like after swapping the game. I mean, I think we talked about this. I just think it's just, I think I want to be emotionally unattached at that. Well, no, I'm going to be attached emotionally, especially if we lose the game. And look, it's not you don't prioritize that. And look, I think it's great. But to the point about Lamar, we got to remember Lamar Jackson was an MVP last year, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And we don't want to see that come out. And it could come out. They could unleash the Kraken against the Cowboys tomorrow night. So
That's
we
true.
we do not want to see that. Hey, to the point about being 8, +8, as far as the favorites, we do not want to see the Lamar Jackson of last year be unleashed.
I agree. Closing up, Tony, do you have any of your former teammates' jerseys? Like, do you have any with you? Like, that you guys at the end of a year, end of a season, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I have jerseys upstairs. I've never really been. I love memorabilia, but I really like memorabilia from, like I have a Roger Clemens jersey. I have, I have different golf stuff.
Right.
But I collect some things, but I've never really been into the jerseys. I believe I had Troy Aikman's jersey, but no, I've not been to the one now that guys, and I think it's a great hobby to have, to be able to collect that. But I would have like yesterday, whenever you saw Devontae Adams give nil to Aaron Rodgers after he threw his 400th touchdown pass. Now I'd want that damn football right there.
I agree with you.
I would have kept it.
I agree with you. The reason I ask is a bit of a tease to the Blog and the Boys audience. Later this week, your longtime teammate, Darren Woodson, is going to join the Blog and the Boys podcast. We're going to put that video up here on the YouTube channel. Tony, I will let you ask him one question. What do you want to ask Darren Woodson?
Darren, how would your game transcend to contemporary football?
Okay, I'll ask Darren. Darren's on the Hall of Fame ballot again this year. It's a shame that people haven't put him in. People harp on different numbers. I don't know why. Woody's got the best numbers that there are. He's a podcaster now. All you guys, all you guys went corporate, Tony. Just all you guys got to have a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if it's corporate. It's just something to do. I get to come on and talk to guys like you and hang out. And I mean, if I can do it, most people can't. Also ask him this. Say, why in the hell did you always cuss the defensive line out in the huddle? Ask him that.
Okay. I will ask Darren Woodson why he always cussed out the defensive
line. Yeah. And I'm sure he'll give you a direct answer, because that's one thing I like about Woody is that he's pretty candid when it comes to giving explanations, and tell him not to hold back. Okay. Because he didn't hold back. He didn't hold back on us. So don't hold back on when you ask him the question.
Tony, let's hope the Cowboys do something moderately special in Baltimore. We'll be back next week to talk about it all, to get ready for the Cincinnati Bengals. Everybody, hope you enjoyed our pregame sort of show. Hope you enjoyed the game. We will see you next week. Tony, have a good one. This was the 750.